I'm Kurtop, and these are the 100 oldest mysteries of humanity that remain unsolved to this day. Game. Ancient human footprints. Archaeologists have discovered an amazing Iron Age statue with well-preserved fingerprints of its creator, giving us a glimpse into the lives of our ancestors more than 3,000 years ago. This ancient clay figure, dating back to the 9th or 10th century BC, was found at the bottom of a lake in Italy, and according to experts, has ritual significance. The discovery was made in Lake Bolsena, a volcanic lake where archaeologists found a clay sculpture resembling a clay figure about the size of a palm. Usually such figures are found in burial sites, however this one was discovered in an area that was once a residential zone of a submerged settlement. The team from the Underwater Archaeology Service and the Italian Cultural Heritage Restoration Group, together with state divers, played a key role in preserving and recovering this artifact. Researchers note that the statue is so well preserved that you can see the fingerprints of the master who created it. This suggests that the sculpture might have been a trial version rather than a finished work. This discovery also sheds light on the ancient Italian settlement of Iola, which scientists believe existed during the Iron Age. The Gran Caro di Bolsena region, where the discovery was made, is associated with volcanic activity and has a rich history, the study of which began only in 1991 when researchers discovered a cluster of unworked stones, presumably belonging to the early Iron Age. Ancient Egyptian Pet Cemetery. During excavations near the famous ancient Egyptian port city of Berenice, a mysterious animal cemetery dating back to the 1st century AD was discovered. It was located in the dunes northwest of the important ancient port of Berenice on the Red Sea, from which a ship arriving from East Africa, Europe, and India can be seen in the distance. Scientists studied 90% of nearly 600 burials of cats, dogs, and macaques, some of which were brought from Africa. Some characteristics make this discovery unique and mysterious. First of all, none of the animals were mummified, as in other archaeological sites. There was also a great variety of species and burial rituals here. Also, unlike other burials, there were no humans among the animals. While animals clearly held a special place in their society, thinking of them the way we think of pets today might not be entirely accurate. These animal companions probably played a more utilitarian role than modern pampered pets. Nevertheless, after death, the animals were treated well. They are accompanied by crafted items such as clay pottery, which is believed to have protected them. And the creatures also have ornaments such as bead necklaces made of stone, glass, faience, and shells. All of them were found in a sleeping position. Other experts claim that this discovery is truly something new. This is something completely different from what we see in other places, says Bay de Coupere, an archaeologist from the Royal Belgian Institute of Natural Sciences in Brussels, who was not involved in the project. According to her research, the ships that entered and left these ports usually had cats on board to control pests, which suggests that these could have been partly working animals.
Клад Le Cotillon 2.
Sometime in the early 1980s, metal detecting enthusiasts Red Schmidt and Richard Miles encountered a woman who told them a strange story. She said that her father, a farmer on the British island of Jones, in Jersey in the English Channel, found silver coins while plowing his field. Mead and Miles approached the farmer, who gave them permission to search as soon as he finished harvesting. Mead and Miles had been searching for the treasure for 30 years, when in June 2012, they discovered the coins. After calling professional archaeologists, they dug up 68,000 coins from the ground. The treasure also contained gold torques and glass beads. Archaeologists determined that the treasure was buried around the 30s or 40s BC by the French Celts, who were known as the Coriosolites Celtic tribe. Most likely they were fleeing from the Roman invasion. At that time, the Roman emperor was Julius Caesar. The Le Cotillon II hoard is the largest collection of gold jewelry and Celtic coins ever discovered. The hoard is valued at approximately 10 million pounds sterling. The oldest calendar, archaeologists made a stunning discovery at Göbekli Tepe, Turkey, uncovering the world's oldest calendar, which is 12,000 years old. This discovery has the potential to change our understanding of early civilizations, as it shows that as early as 10,000 BC people were already able to measure time. This happened long before the rise of ancient Greece and other well-known cultures. The calendar is carved on a stone column and contains 365 marks, which indicates the existence of 12 months with the addition of 11 extra days. At the top of the column, you can see symbols, including the letter V, and at the bottom, there are birds, a round object, and a scorpion depicted. These images may symbolize the sun and zodiac signs. Research also points to a connection with a comet that caused a sharp cooling for 1,200 years. This event had a devastating impact on large animal species and may have caused significant changes in the region's ecosystem. Historians believe that such catastrophic events could have been a catalyst for the emergence of new religions and the development of agriculture, which in turn led to the formation of the first civilizations. The dog archaeologist, a dog named Mesa, became famous all over the world. The pet's owner went out for an ordinary walk, which turned into the unique discovery of a clay pot. Even at first glance, from an archaeological point of view, it could be of considerable significance for the people of the Czech Republic. The vessel turned out to be full of coins. Although the little pot had been missing for around 100 years, it was fascinating to discover who its owner was. Until recently, in the town of Vysetin in the Zlin district of the Czech Republic, there lived a very ordinary dog named Masa, together with her owner. She, like any other dog owner pair, would walk in parks, along alleys, and sometimes go into wooded areas. On one of those seemingly ordinary days, a routine walk turned into a worldwide sensation. The pet found a clay pot filled with coins. The dog's owner gave the ceramics to the Wallachian Regional Museum Administration. However, before opening this stash, they decided to transfer it to the Wallachian Mogilev Hospital for a CT scan. As a result of the examination, it was established that inside the urn, there are 374 Prague groschen silver coins, dating back to the 14th century. The specialists will need to conduct a considerable number of examinations to determine the exact minting date, the composition of the material, and the method of production. Once all the information is gathered, the treasure will be displayed in the museum's exhibition halls. The oldest map of the world has been deciphered. The British Museum has revealed the secret of one of the oldest maps of the world, a clay tablet from Babylon, created about 3,000 years ago. The so-called Imago Mundi, found in the city of Abu Haba in Iraq, has been kept in the museum's collection since 1882. The tablet shows a simplified world as envisioned by Mesopotamians, with the Euphrates River as a central rectangle. Around it are circles and rectangles representing places, including Babylon. Everything is surrounded by the Bitter River, the salty waters of the Persian Gulf and the Mediterranean Sea. According to cuneiform specialist Irving Finkel, this is a schematic representation of the space where people lived and died, and beyond it, according to the tablet, there were 8 distant regions. The text in Akkadian, placed on top of the map and on the back, tells about the creation of the world and also retells one of the versions of the story of the Great Flood. According to it, around 1800 BC, the god commanded King Utnapishtim to build an ark, the remains of which supposedly stayed beyond the Bitter River on the slope of a mountain. The missing fragment of the tablet, discovered in 1995, helped scientists to decipher this story more accurately. In addition, the Babylonian god Marduk is mentioned, as well as fantastic creatures like the scorpion man and the lion-headed bird Anzu, which confirms the rich mythological world of the Babylonians. Armor made of 6,000 scales. Archaeologists in China's Jiangxi province made an amazing discovery. In the tomb of Liu He, the ruler of Haihun from the Western Han Dynasty, a composite suit of scale armor was discovered, which is more than 2,000 years old. This discovery not only demonstrates the advanced level of craftsmanship during the Han era, but also fundamentally differs from the typical single material armors of that time. According to the report from the Provincial Institute of Archaeology and Cultural Relics, the plates were made of lacquered iron, copper, and leather, with many of them being only 1 centimeter wide and 0.2 centimeters thick. The restoration took about 2 years. Specialists assembled around 6,000 pieces that were found stacked in the armory section of the tomb, next to swords and knives. According to Yan Jun, the leader of the excavation team, Their arrangement and size demonstrate an incredible delicacy of craftsmanship that was previously unknown for Han Dynasty armor. The Spanish Stonehenge. This amazing megalithic monument, known as the Spanish Stonehenge, is located on the banks of the Tagus River in Spain. Its age is estimated to be about 7,000 years, which makes it 2,000 years older than the famous Stonehenge in England and older than the Egyptian pyramids. The complex consists of more than 100 upright granite stones, forming a circle and ellipses. Officially, this site is called the Guadalperal Dolmen, and its purpose still remains a mystery. Scientists suggest that it could have served as a place for rituals, a temple, or possibly even an astronomical observatory. The stones are arranged in such a way that their orientation is connected to the position of the sun during certain times of the year. This confirms that the ancient builders had deep knowledge of astronomy. For a long time, the dolmen was underwater due to the construction of a dam in 1963, and only a recent drought allowed archaeologists and researchers to take another look at this amazing site. What inspired ancient people to create such a grand structure? Incredible, what a stroke of luck. A farmer from the Indian town of Pani, Dilip Mistry, found a 16.1 carat diamond in a private mine, which was valued at more than $70,000. Mistry, along with 3 companions, hoped to find precious stones, but he didn't expect such luck. Local gemstone expert Anupam Singh confirmed the authenticity of the find, and now the diamond will be sold at auction. Of the proceeds, 12.5% will have to be given to the government as royalty, and the remaining money will be divided among the 4 seekers. In the videos posted online, you can see Dilip proudly displaying the sparkling diamond and then handing it over to the district officer. Mistry stated that he plans to use his share of the money to improve his family's financial situation. Notably, this is not the first time a farmer has found diamonds. Previously, he and his partners had already found precious stones, although Mistry never said how much they were worth. The Centurion's Diploma. On February 9, 1971, a man named Lekai was honorably discharged from the navy of the powerful Roman Empire. As proof of this, he received this diploma made from a sheet of bronze. On the 4 pages of the diploma, there is an engraved text with his name and the name of Emperor Vespasian, who issued the diploma to Lekai, a member of the Celtic tribe of Priuki, for his honorable discharge from the Roman army. Both plaques and 5 wax seals of the witnesses have been preserved. The holder of the diploma is Centurion Lekai, son of Bursa from Marsunia, a veteran of the fleet of Misenum. The Priuki tribe lived in the region of Pannonia, which is present-day Hungary, eastern Croatia, and northern Bosnia. The text of the diploma states the date it was issued, as well as the rights and privileges granted to this provincial after serving more than 26 years in the fleet, where he attained the rank of centurion. In an unusual lead coffin in northern Britain, archaeologists discovered the skeleton of a late Roman period noblewoman in a lead coffin, as well as the remains of more than 60 men, women, and children who lived in this region over 1,000 years ago. This discovery may shed light on one of the key periods in the history of Britain, as researchers found representatives of both the late Roman and early Saxon periods with different burial customs. The find was made in Leeds, at a site discovered last year near Garforth. The location of the cemetery is being kept secret to protect it from looters. The cemetery was discovered in the spring of last year, not far from the place where late Roman stone buildings and Anglo-Saxon style structures had previously been found. Among the finds at the cemetery were burials with individual items such as knives and pottery, which indicates early Christian beliefs and Saxon burial customs. Chemical analyses may reveal details about the origin and diet of the buried individuals. After the analyses are completed, the lead coffin is planned to be displayed at the Leeds City Museum as part of an exhibition about burials and burial customs around the world. Egyptians drank thick beer. New research shows that about 5,800 years ago, the ancient Egyptian elite drank a thick porridge-like wine. Scientists analyzed fragments of clay vessels found in Hierakonpolis, an ancient city and current archaeological site in southern Egypt. They found beer residues in 5 straw-colored flat-bottom vessels. They were probably used like modern beer kegs. Beer residues were also found in 4 clay cup-shaped vessels. Presumably, they were used for drinking and serving. As the researchers note, beer at that time was a symbol of status and power, important in elite feasts and burial rituals. In their work, Jian Jingwang, an archaeologist from Dartmouth University in New Hampshire, and his colleagues used a method for analyzing microfossil residues. They conducted it on 33 fragments of ceramic vessels. Each of them dates back to the period between 3800 and 3600 BC, about 600 years before the reign of the first Egyptian pharaoh. Using their method, the researchers discovered starch granules, yeast cells, and a small number of phytoliths, tiny structures in plant tissues that remain even after the rest of the plant decomposes. They also found beer stone crystals, also known as calcium oxalate. This is a type of scale that forms as a result of chemical reactions, which modern brewers still struggle with. Oxalate in the residue suggests to botanists that beer wort was filtered to remove grain husks. After analyzing the traces of the beverage found, researchers discovered that it was a thick porridge, a cloudy sweet brew made from wheat, barley, and grass with a low alcohol content. By now, more than a dozen ancient breweries have been discovered in Hierakonpolis, capable of producing from 390 to 1,000 liters of beer at a time. In the early dynastic period, brewers may have added legumes and tubers as starchy additives to increase the fermentable sugar. Thus, beer became a mixture of several ingredients. The medieval chair from Trossingen is a rare and valuable example of early medieval furniture. This wooden chair was found in the burial chamber of a man in Trossingen, Germany, and dates back to around 580 AD. Made from maple and ash, it demonstrates a high degree of craftsmanship by ancient artisans. The chair is remarkably well preserved because the wood was not destroyed for several years. Although the wood has darkened over time, it has retained its structure, allowing archaeologists to study its construction and manufacturing style. The find is part of the collection at the Baden-Württemberg Archaeological Museum in Constance, Germany. The Met, the eerie harp, over 3,000 years old, is a unique artifact of ancient Egypt kept in the collection. This exquisite musical instrument dates back to 1390 to 1295 BC, which corresponds to the time of the New Kingdom. The harp is made of wood and is 82 centimeters long. Its neck is topped with a sculpted image of the head of a Nubian captive. This is not just a decorative element, but is likely connected to the triumph of the Egyptians in military campaigns. The strings of the harp, visually linked to the captive's head, may be a metaphor for conquest. The object's preservation is impressive considering its age. Such instruments were used not only for entertainment purposes, but also in ritual ceremonies, which highlights their significance in the culture of ancient Egypt. The ring with a hologram. This unusual Roman ring, found by Ibutia Quarta, dates back to the 1st century AD. Its unique feature is the hologram effect, created by the masterfully engraved portrait, presumably of her son, Titus Carvilius Gemellus. According to historical records, Titus died at the age of 18, and the ring likely served as a tribute and a symbol of his mother's grief. The ring is made of gold, and the stone set in the bezel is perfectly polished and contains a miniature image. This portrait is unusual for that time. The facial details look so realistic that they create the impression of a three-dimensional image, as if someone is looking out from within the stone. Such a technique was incredibly complex, indicating the highest level of skill among ancient Roman jewelers. But the ring also raises mystical questions. Some believe that its owner might have used it as an amulet, connecting her with the spirit of her son, possibly for guidance or protection. The mystery of the artifact is heightened by the fact that very few engravings with such an effect have been found, and it is still unclear how such a striking optical illusion was achieved. British researchers used the latest three-dimensional imaging technology to analyze the muscles and organs in the soft tissues of a well-preserved ammonite fossil that lived 165 million years ago. Ammonites are cephalopod mollusks that went extinct about 66 million years ago, leaving behind numerous hard shells. Until now, scientists have learned about these extinct creatures mainly from their shells, since soft tissues usually do not last for millions of years, but there are exceptions. In 1998, an exceptionally well-preserved ammonite was discovered in Gloucestershire, and scientists did not immediately cut it into pieces, fearing they might damage its internal structure. 20 years later, when new imaging technologies became available, researchers were finally able to look beneath the shell of the ancient creature. We managed to combine X-ray images with neutron imaging data, which allowed us to create a detailed three-dimensional model of the ammonite's interior. The model makes it possible to study the muscles and moisture of the creature, which is simply incredible. Now, thanks to the analysis of muscle structure, we know how ammonites swam. They expelled water from the chambers of their shell, creating jet propulsion. A 2,600-year-old terracotta water pipe was discovered at the ancient settlement of Kiledi Tomi. There are higher bodies in geometry.
Системы цивилизации, процветавшие здесь.
Juicy organs of existence. In this case, we can say that everything needed is the preservation of visualization in geometry and engineering. Kiledi, located 12 kilometers from Madurai, was first discovered in 2000. Since then, this place has become important for studying the period of geometry. At this site, which dates from 300 BC to 300 AD, more than 20,000 artifacts have been found in recent decades, of a society skilled in brick production, busts, terracotta, and more. Recently, new discoveries in geometry have been made. In geometry, there is geometry with a width of 18 sappers. These sections were carefully joined together, forming a water pipeline 170 meters long. There is extensive drinking water production here, which demonstrates advanced hydraulic engineering skills.
Эта находка также расширяет наше представление о...
The geometry found in northern India and the southern regions points to a more technologically advanced ancient India than previously thought.
Хайра-Бенакал. Хайра-Бенакал – каменная достопримечательность индийского штата Карнатака.
One of the few megalithic monuments that archaeologists date to the period from 800 to 200 BCE, located in the Kopal area, about 10 kilometers west of the city of Gangavati. A dolmen is located in the northern part of India.
Между эпохой неолита и...
India. It is located in a place called Elu Gudagalyu, or Seven Hills, which is also known as Moriar Guda, or Hill of the Seas. The structures vary in shape and size. There is even a cluster of dolmens with three-sided chambers and capstones forming the roof. The small dolmens are about 35 centimeters high. The large ones reach up to 3 meters in height. The buried and partially submerged dolmens are classified as cysts and dolmenoid cysts. They are arranged in a circular pattern. Most of them have now collapsed. Dolmens with round entrance holes resemble dwellings with windows, but according to the official version of history, they are burial structures, in general, as always. Dolmens are located on both sides of the main street. There are also pit circles and elongated chambers covered with double-pitched stone roofs. There is also an unusual find there. A stone kettle drum sits on top of a boulder 10 meters high. The boulder has a hemispherical shape with a diameter of 2 meters and a height of 1.5 meters. The most interesting thing about it is that when struck with a wooden mallet, the boulder produces sounds that can be heard up to 1 kilometer away. The more likes this video gets, the more new archaeological discoveries await us next year. Bronze Age lipstick. In the southeast of Iran, archaeologists have discovered perhaps the oldest lipstick in human history.
Возраст находки около 3500 лет.
It was a small stone vial made of the mineral chlorite, which contained remnants of a cosmetic product. It turns out they strived for bright red, shiny, and fragrant lips. The base of the lipstick is hematite powder, red iron ore, which changes color from black to blood red when ground. Additionally, other minerals were used: braunite, manganite, rhodonite, galena, which gave the desired shade and shine. Altogether, they made up about 80% of the composition, mixed with plant wax. Finally, aromatic plant fibers and tiny quartz particles were added to the lipstick so that the lips not only gained color, but also smelled pleasant and shimmered in the sunlight. Scientists believe that the elongated shape of the bottle was convenient for use, together with a bronze mirror held in the other hand. Confirmation of this can be found, for example, in Turin, papyrus number 55,001 from Egypt, which dates back to the 12th century BC. There, a woman is applying makeup to her lips or eyes using a small brush in one hand and a mirror in the other. The lost text of the Bible. In Turkey, archaeologists found a unique 5th century amulet depicting King Solomon defeating the devil. On the 1,600-year-old bronze pendant, there is an ancient Greek inscription that reads, "Our Lord has defeated the devil." This artifact may be connected to a lost text of the Bible that speaks about the magical power of Solomon. Sources say that in the first 5 centuries, a text called the Testament of Solomon existed but wasn't included in the canon. In this text, Archangel Michael gives Solomon a magical ring that allows him to control demons. The discovered amulet confirms that Solomon was seen not only as a wise king, but also as a fighter against evil. The artifact was discovered among the ruins of an ancient military structure in Adrianople, which is modern-day Edirne. The amulet probably belonged to a soldier who believed in Solomon's magical protection. On the reverse side of the pendant, the names of the archangels, Azrael, Israfil, Gabriel, and Michael, are engraved. This symbolizes protection from evil, uniting the traditions of different religions. Azrael is known as the angel of death in Judaism and Islam. Israfil is the herald of the end of the world, blowing the trumpet on Judgment Day. Gabriel and Michael are widely revered in Christianity, the former as God's messenger, the latter as a spiritual warrior. All these names enhance the protective meaning of the amulet. The amulet with Solomon is not just a historical artifact. It demonstrates how legends and religious traditions intertwine across different eras. The figure of Solomon unites the 3 world religions, remaining a symbol of wisdom and strength. The composition of the ritual cocktail. For the first time, scientists were able to study organic remains inside an ancient vessel that is 2,000 years old. The study showed that the ancient Egyptians consumed a special ritual cocktail that included fruits, nuts, alcohol, biological fluids, and psychoactive substances. The vessel, known as the Bez mug, was studied using innovative technology developed by scientists from the University of South Florida in collaboration with colleagues from Italy. This is the first time that the complete chemical composition of a ritual drink has been identified, including its psychoactive and medicinal components. The Bez mugs were dedicated to the Egyptian god of the same name, the patron of fertility, healing, and protection. He was depicted with a crown of feathers, large eyes, and a tail. Such vessels were used from the 16th century BC to the 5th century AD, and the specimen being studied dates back to the Ptolemaic period. Analysis revealed traces of honey, grapes, sesame, pine nuts, licorice, and hallucinogenic components. Scientists suggest that the mixture was used in magical rituals. People were looking for confirmation of a successful pregnancy, since in ancient times it was considered a dangerous and unpredictable process. Such a cocktail probably caused visions, helping to establish a connection with the deity. A lost city where gold was mined. In the vicinity of Prague, archaeologists discovered a multi-layered settlement that combines artifacts from the Neolithic, Hallstatt, and Latin cultures, as well as the Middle Ages. More than 9,000 objects have been found, which led to the suspension of road construction. The earliest finds date back to the end of the 6th millennium BC. 8 longhouses, stone tools, and a workshop for processing polished stone. People lived here later as well, up until the 5th century BC, as evidenced by 10 semi-subterranean houses from the Hallstatt and Latin periods. Among other artifacts, archaeologists discovered exquisite pottery with rich decoration, a bronze ornament, as well as a handle from a drinking vessel, probably brought from the Adriatic. All this indicates the existence of trade connections with southern regions. Scientists believe that members of the nobility lived in the settlement, having access to rare resources. In addition, researchers discovered several dozen round pits from the 13th century, which they believe are related to gold prospecting or mining. A large medieval gold mine was located nearby. The findings span several eras at once. The preserved body. In 1719, at the Falun copper mine in Sweden, miners made a sinister discovery. From a flooded section, they brought out the body of a man without legs, but it was surprisingly well preserved. Judging by his clothes and appearance, it seemed that he had died just a few days ago. It looked very strange, considering that the abandoned mine had not been used for many years. The body was put on public display, hoping to find relatives or acquaintances. Soon, Margareta Olsdatter appeared, claiming that the man before her was her fiancé, who had disappeared 42 years ago. When the water was pumped out, it turned out that the deceased had been soaked in a solution of vitriol, copper sulfate, which preserved his remains from rapid decomposition. However, as the body dried out, this natural preservation caused it to become petrified and then to deteriorate. Unfortunately, the fate of the unfortunate man did not end with a simple burial. The local residents, shocked by such a rare phenomenon, kept his body on display for the public for another 30 years. Only then was he buried in a church. After some time, during another reconstruction, the body was discovered again. This time, they decided to finally lay him to rest in the city cemetery. A pyramid on the site of a volcano, the Great Pyramid at the Mayan site of San Andrés, was built in response to the eruption of the Tierra Blanca Joven volcano in the Lago Ilopango caldera. San Andrés, located in the Zapotitan Valley in the La Libertad department of El Salvador, was founded around 900 BC as an agricultural center and became the capital of a Mayan state between 600 and 900 AD. The eruption of the Tierra Blanca Joven volcano, which occurred around 539 AD, was one of the largest volcanic events in history, ejecting about 43.7 cubic kilometers of volcanic material. It caused significant climate changes and devastated an area with a radius of up to 100 kilometers. Dr. Akira Achikawa from the University of Colorado Boulder noted that due to the scale of the disaster, many settlements were abandoned and it took a long time for them to recover. However, research in San Andrés, just 40 kilometers from Lake Ilopango, showed that construction began a few years after the eruption. The construction of the La Campana pyramid is dated to just 530 years after the eruption, and its completion took about 80 years. The pyramid, standing 7 meters tall and with a volume of 23,000 cubic meters, became the largest structure in the valley. Dr. Ichikawa suggests that the pyramid was built using volcanic ash as a material and had religious significance related to the veneration of volcanoes in order to protect against future eruptions. Pharaoh was sent for a CT scan. Professor of radiology at the Faculty of Medicine of Cairo University, Sakar Salim, along with her team, studied the mummy of Pharaoh Amenhotep IV. The scientists used three-dimensional computed tomography to virtually unwrap the mummy and examine its contents. The mummy of Amenhotep I was discovered in 1881 among other reburied royal mummies at the archaeological site of Deir el-Bahari in southern Egypt. The fact is that originally pharaohs were certainly not buried in mass graves. Amenhotep I was buried in Thebes. But over time, the profession of tomb robber became quite popular in Egypt. Around the 11th century BC, about 400 years after the pharaoh's death, robbers reached the tomb of Amenhotep I as well. Ancient Egyptian sources tell us that the pharaohs of the later 21st dynasty became concerned about the looting of royal tombs. The priests gathered and restored the mummies as much as possible, and then buried them in a secret place on the west bank of the Nile, opposite Luxor. In the 19th century, another generation of looters reached this burial site, but the Egyptian authorities did not let them go any further and hurriedly transported all the mummies to Cairo. Scientists studied all the finds except for the mummy of Amenhotep I. The thing is, the mummy reconstructed by the priests looked perfect. It was neatly wrapped, beautifully decorated with flower garlands, and the face and neck were covered with an exquisite, realistic mask inlaid with colorful stones. Since the mummy was never unwrapped, some even speculated that the remains inside might not belong to the pharaoh, but to someone else. Amenhotep I was about 35 years old at the time of his death. Previously, it was believed that he died at around 40 years old. The ruler was 169 centimeters tall. He was circumcised and had good teeth. A narrow chin, a small narrow nose, and slightly protruding upper teeth made him resemble his father. 30 amulets and a unique gold belt with gold beads were also found on the mummy. The remains of a Roman crucifixion victim. Archaeologists in Cambridge, UK, have discovered possibly the best preserved physical evidence of crucifixion. A 1,900-year-old skeleton with a 2-inch iron nail driven through the heel. The Romans used crucifixion for executions. Between 100,000 and 150,000 people were killed in this way before Emperor Constantine outlawed the practice in 337 AD after converting to Christianity. Crucifixion was considered an especially prolonged and terrible means of execution, intended for enslaved people and enemies of the state. Most victims were likely fastened with ropes rather than nails, and probably were not officially buried, which makes it difficult to find physical evidence of their cause of death. The deceased found in Constantine was believed to be a man between 25 and 35 years old. His foot was nailed to prevent him from writhing in his final moments, while the injuries to his legs suggest that he had been kept in slavery and shackled before his death. Builders in Jerusalem found another body with a nail in 1968, but the body was not intact, so in the archaeological world, it was not considered evidence of crucifixion. Essentially, this is the first time archaeologists have found physical evidence of such an execution during archaeological excavations. The legendary golden horse. Not long ago, news once again spread on social media that near Anapa, Russia, the legendary golden horse of King Mithridates Eupator was allegedly found. It is noteworthy that similar reports had already appeared in 2021, turning out to be an April Fool's joke. Now, however, the excavations taking place in the area around the village of Anapskaya have once again sparked discussions about this story. During salvage excavations at the site of a planned preschool, archaeologists discovered a burial ground about 2,000 years old. In one of the graves, they found not only human remains, but also those of a horse. In others, there were horse skeletons, glass and ceramic vessels, various beads, as well as weapons and harnesses. The items, including beads made of amber, carnelian, and faience, indicate the local tribe's connections with the ancient world. Among the finds, they noted a scarab, a symbol of rebirth for the ancient Egyptians. Glass vessels became widespread across the Roman Empire's periphery due to improved glass-blowing techniques attracting particular interest. Despite the excitement, there is no direct evidence that this is the horse of Mithridates, or a symbol of rebirth. Scientists emphasize that legends easily grow, and the rich burial of a noble person can quite possibly acquire fantastic features over time. The Risen Telemon. This unique atlas from the Temple of Zeus in the ancient city of Agrigento in Sicily is one of the most impressive examples of monumental sculpture from the 5th century BC. The temple, built in the Doric style, was considered one of the largest temples of the ancient world, and its architecture reflected the power of Greek civilization. The telemons, which served as supports, had symbolic significance, depicting titanic strength that held up the sky or the enormous weight of the architectural structure. These giant statues, about 7.5 meters tall, were impressive both for their detail and their size. One of the telemons was restored and placed in its original location, demonstrating the complexity of the engineering and artistic solutions of the ancient masters. But there are myths and mysteries surrounding Atlas. Some researchers believe that the images of the Titans could reflect ancient myths about the confrontation between gods and giants, and their position in the temple could symbolize their subjugation. Others believe that such size and form could have been used as images of extraterrestrial beings that the ancient inhabitants believed in. A time capsule in a cesspit. Archaeologists from the Netherlands, working in the center of the city of Alkmaar, discovered impressive items in an old cesspit that shed light on everyday life in the 15th century. Among the finds, a pair of wooden shoes made from birch stands out, a tree that is not grown in the country. This is a rare clog, which, according to archaeologist Nancy de Jong, has a complex design with a double heel. Only 44 such specimens are known in the Netherlands and Belgium, and most of them are less well preserved. In addition, scientists extracted a finely crafted oak grain measure from the pit. This is a unique artifact, since previously only fragments of such containers had been found in the region. Until now, they were known mainly from historical records. Now, researchers have tangible evidence of the existence of such measures in everyday urban life. The cesspit itself is dated to the last decades. In Europe, such finds have been made in recent decades. At first, it served as a latrine, and then it was abandoned during the construction of new houses. Scientists note that the inhabitants of that time were already practicing a circular economy, reusing or recycling materials and often burning them.
Коды для отопления. Дом позднего железного века в Норвегии. Огромный дом длиной около 60 метров позднего железного века.
Waste. In recent decades, Viking-era ships have been found in Europe. This is one of the largest such structures ever discovered in Scandinavia. It is among several other structures that archaeologists have come across in an area they believe was a central site in the late Scandinavian Iron Age, about 1,500 years ago. Long and narrow buildings were discovered in Gestad, 86 kilometers southeast of Oslo, using ground-penetrating radar. In addition to the 60-meter-long house, researchers also found 4 other buildings. Archaeologists say 30 meters long and 13 meters wide. Scientists note that they are making every effort to find out how important the site was during the Iron Age, and new discoveries are helping with this. It is currently assumed that the area was used from the 5th century AD until around 1050 AD. This fall, archaeologists used ground-penetrating radar to study about 40 hectares of land near the place where a Viking ship was previously discovered. This survey is the first part of a research project in which archaeologists, historians, and Viking Age specialists are studying the development of the region. In the nearby field, scientists found several plowed burial mounds, and although there is nothing surprising about their discovery, since similar burial mounds had been found before, it still allows us to get a more complete picture of Helistad and its surroundings. Scientists say they aim to better understand the relationship between the ship, buildings, and the elevated central area in the coming years. Ancient Slavic cemetery in Germany. Archaeologists from Saxony-Anhalt, which is in Germany, have made an important discovery. They discovered a medieval Slavic settlement and cemetery near Wettin-Ljubajan. These findings were made during preparations for the construction of the underground power line Süd-Ostlink. The excavations revealed a settlement covering 1.2 acres, dating back to the migration period and the early Middle Ages. The settlement went through 2 stages. Initially, it was protected by a 4-meter-wide ditch, and later, half-meter ditches marked the boundaries of the estate settlement. Among the artifacts, a pearl and a bronze bracelet were found. An important part of the settlement was the craft quarter, where bog iron ore was extracted and textile production took place. 2 wells were also discovered, providing the settlement with water. A cemetery with about 60 graves from the 10th and 11th centuries, arranged in 2 rows, was excavated near the settlement. Most of the burials were carried out according to Christian traditions, with the bodies oriented to the east. Among the finds, family graves and the burial of a child with hydrocephalus stand out, which indicates the community's care. 11,000-year-old sculptures. In the ruins of the ancient settlement of Karahantepe, which has been excavated in Turkey since 2019, unique busts on pedestals have been discovered. The settlement existed about 11,000 years ago during the Neolithic era, when people had no other tools except those made of stone and bone. The Karahantepe site is located in the southeastern province of Şanlıurfa in Turkey, and is considered one of the most important settlements of the Neolithic period. The 3D artifacts that were found reveal the artistic abilities of the people who lived here. 11,000 years ago, busts and creatures were discovered. Scientists have dubbed these mostly human-depicting items 3-dimensional artifacts. This is their main difference from similar artifacts found at the nearby Neolithic site of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. There, most of the artifacts are animal sculptures. The Göbekli Tepe settlement is included in the UNESCO World Heritage List. The megalithic structures at this site date back to the 10th millennium BC and are considered the oldest temple in the world. At Karahantepe, archaeologists found many anthropomorphic statues. One of the best, according to scientists, is a bust depicting a man with a leopard jumping onto his back. So far, more than 250 T-shaped megaliths have been found at the excavation site. In addition to the sculptures, a round building with a diameter of 23 meters was discovered at the Karahantepe site. The unusual bunker is partially carved into the rock and reaches a depth of 5 meters. This suggests that many people were involved in its construction. The oldest book in Europe. In January 1962, during excavations near the village of Usalonik, Greek archaeologists discovered an ancient papyrus in the funeral pyre of a noble Macedonian. This scroll, dated to approximately 340-320 BC, became the first to be found on the territory of mainland Greece. Since the manuscript is of a literary nature, UNESCO recognized it as the oldest known book in Europe. The discovered scroll was named the Derveni Papyrus, after the place where it was found. It contains reflections on religious rituals related to the fate of the soul after death, and discussions about a lost poetic text attributed to the legendary Orpheus, a famous Greek singer and musician. Researchers believe that the unknown author belonged to the circle of followers of the philosopher Anaxagoras and wrote for the adepts of Orphism, a special religious movement that was presumably monotheistic. This movement focused on the purification of the soul. It was the fire of the funeral pyre that preserved the fragments of the papyrus from the damp soil, but at the same time seriously damaged them. Scientists managed to extract about 266 charred pieces and later assemble them into 26 columns of text without the lower halves of the lines. A full publication of the deciphered manuscript appeared only half a century later. $1 million to whoever deciphers the ancient script. The writings of the ancient Indus Valley civilization remain undeciphered to this day. Recently, Indian official Mudwal Karunanidhi Stalin offered $1 million for their decipherment. According to the Hindustan Times, this impressive reward is meant to inspire archaeologists, linguists, and cryptographers. The head of the state of Tamil Nadu pointed out that over centuries of research, no one has made progress in understanding these mysterious symbols, which are presumably connected to the Tamil language. The strange symbols of the Indus civilization found on artifacts by Sir John Marshall in 1920 remain an unsolved mystery. It was at that time that Harappa and Mohenjo-daro were excavated, but the key to their script still has not been found. Heracleion, once one of the greatest ports of ancient Egypt, disappeared underwater after a devastating earthquake in the 1st century BC. Its existence was long considered a myth until the French archaeologist Frank Godiot discovered the lost city in the early 2000s in Abu Qir Bay, not far from the modern coast of Egypt. The most remarkable find was a massive black granite slab on which the name of the city and details of its connection with the ancient Egyptian gods were inscribed. Along with the slab, archaeologists found dozens of sunken ships, remarkably well-preserved statues, temples, and numerous artifacts, including jewelry, coins, and personal belongings of the inhabitants. Excavations are ongoing, and each discovered object sheds light on the role of Heracleion as a major center of trade and religious life. The city, submerged in the depths of the sea, remains a reminder of how natural disasters can forever change the course of history. The deepest and oldest tunnel. In China, they aim to reach rocks from the Cretaceous period, which are 140 million years old. The ambitious goal is to drill through 10 layers of the earth and reach a depth of 11,000 meters, which would set a national record. The work started in May of this year. While Russia wants to resume work on the Kola Super Deep borehole, China is already actively drilling. Let me remind you that the Soviet Kola borehole project, although it was not completed, made important scientific discoveries and planned to drill the Earth to a depth of more than 15,000 meters. Work on the Kola Peninsula began in 1970 and continued for 2 decades. At a depth of 7 kilometers, the team had to face difficulties. Layered rocks would get stuck in the equipment. Despite this, they managed to reach the final depth of 12,226 meters. But in 1990, the project had to be shut down due to an unknown explosion. Now, China is striving to continue the research using this method to ensure earthquake safety. The purpose of the wells was to ensure earthquake safety and predict their occurrence. Another goal of the project is to gain a deeper understanding of the Earth's internal structure and its evolution. This opens up new opportunities for developing technologies and solutions that can be applied in various industries. Let's hope that China, with its modern technologies, we'll be able to find something interesting for the world of archaeology as well. A box with a combination lock. This is a unique artifact from the 12th century created by craftsmen from Iran. This exquisite object not only served as a container, but also demonstrated the outstanding engineering skills of its time. The box is equipped with 4 double dials, each of which has 16 positions. The combination of all possible settings creates an impressive number of options. 16 to the power of 8 or 4,294,967,296. This made the box extremely reliable as it was almost impossible to crack the code. The materials from which this item is made include brass, gold, and silver. The ornament and Arabic inscription covering the surface emphasize the sophistication of the work and indicate the high status of the owner. The box is now kept in the Copenhagen Museum, where it attracts visitors' attention as an outstanding example of medieval Eastern technology and decorative art. Its creation date is estimated to be around the year 1200. A salt brick instead of money. On an ancient fresco found in Calakmul, a UNESCO World Heritage Site on the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, the first documented case of salt trade among the Maya more than 2,500 years ago, is depicted. On the fresco depicting everyday life, a salt seller shows a buyer a salt brick wrapped in leaves, while another person holds a large spoon over a basket, presumably filled with loose salt. This is the earliest known depiction of salt being sold at a market in the Maya region. Salt, being a necessary biological element and a means of preserving food, was a valuable commodity among the Maya due to its limited availability. Salt bricks could be easily transported by canoe along the coast and up the rivers in southern Belize. Archaeologist Heather McKillop of Louisiana State University discovered in 2004 the first remains of ancient salt kitchens, submerged and preserved in a saltwater mangrove lagoon in Belize. Since then, she and her team have explored 70 sites which make up a network of buildings and rooms known as the Paynes Creek Saltworks. McKillop's team discovered 4,042 wooden posts, a canoe, a paddle, a high-quality jadeite tool, stone tools for salting fish and meat, as well as hundreds of ceramic vessels. By studying the ceramic vessels used for evaporating brine, the researchers found that they were standardized in volume, which indicates the production of uniform salt units, possibly used as a means of exchange similar to money. The artist got a tattoo like the Iceman mummies. When a tattoo parlor becomes the perfect place to hold a contemporary art exhibition. The film presents Nicole Wilson's nearly decade-long Otzi project, in which she recreated 61 tattoos found on the eponymous mummy, which is over 5,000 years old. She used her own blood instead of ink and documented the healing process by photographing how the marks slowly faded away. Archaeologists discovered Otzi the Iceman in 1991 in the Ötztal Alps on the Italian-Austrian border. He died around 3,230 BC, probably killed, but his body was surprisingly well preserved. This is the oldest naturally preserved mummy ever found in Europe. The 33-year-old artist recalls how she learned about Otzi as a child soon after his discovery, and questioned her teacher's claim that the Iceman was her ancestor. As an adult, she was fascinated by his mysterious tattoos. 15 groups of 61 lines that mark various parts of his body. Otzi's tattoo artist actually rubbed crushed charcoal into skin cuts instead of using ink. The tattoos are very interesting. Scientists think they might have an acupuncture significance, but in reality we don't know. We can't ask what the lines, dashes, and hashes meant to this person. The idea of recreating these marks became the artist's lifelong goal. She first got Otzi's tattoos in 2012 asking a tattoo artist friend. Wilson used blood because she wanted to literally absorb the traces of the ancient mummy. Then in 2012, specialists using multispectral photographic imaging discovered 2 more tattoos on Otzi's body. Wilson decided to start over, this time using a tattoo parlor. For several years, she documented the process of getting tattoos and how they faded from her body. She edited all of this into a film and put it up for sale. The mysterious seal from Cyprus. Archaeologists from the University of Gothenburg have been excavating for several years in the ancient city of Hala Sultan Teka in Cyprus. The focus of the research was the burial chambers of 5 people. Hundreds of luxurious burial items, jewelry, and ceramics from all over the Mediterranean were layered above the graves. And this suggests that the burial chambers were used over several generations. Among other interesting discoveries is a ceramic object in the shape of a bull. Wine was poured into one of the openings, and the other was meant for drinking the beverage. Based on this find, scientists conclude that memorial rituals were held in the tombs, and the red carnelian from India, blue lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, and Baltic amber indicate the extensive trade connections of the people who lived in Cyprus during the Bronze Age. Contacts with ancient Egypt are evidenced by the remains of fish imported from the Nile Valley and scarab amulets dating back to 1350 BC, and jewelry, including a gemstone inlaid lotus flower pendant similar to what Queen Nefertiti of ancient Egypt used to wear. Of particular interest is a cylindrical hematite seal with cuneiform writing from the Mesopotamian period. After deciphering it, archaeologists found references to 3 names. One of them is Amuru, a god worshipped in Mesopotamia. The other 2 are the names of kings who ruled Mesopotamia in the 18th century BC. Their names have also been found by scholars on other clay tablets. The seal was used for at least 300 years before it ended up in Cyprus. Here, it was re-engraved. An ancient craftsman carved lines over the existing ones. Analysis of the oldest ceramics. In the 18th century, in the 18th century, in the 18th century, the 18th century, the 18th century, in the 18th century, the 18th century, the 18th century, the 18th century, in the 18th, in another kinship, or they came from other countries, which does not seem unlikely considering the extensive trade networks of Cyprus. A giant warrior in the 18th century, 3 archaeologists discovered a 4,000-year-old memorial monument at the site of Banabazi in Syria, resembling the ancient Egyptian step pyramid in Saqqara. This artificial mound, known as the White Monument because of the shine of its building materials, was first studied several decades ago. Recent research has shown that around 2400 BC, the mound was modified and supplemented with a series of horizontal steps, each containing at least 30 burials sealed with layers of plaster. Ancient Mesopotamian texts mention military memorials, where the bodies of enemies were piled up, although such monuments have not yet been found. However, the White Monument at Tel Banat apparently served as a memorial for the burial of the settlement's inhabitants, not for enemies fallen in battle. The discovery calls into question some traditional ideas about Near Eastern archaeology. The monument was comparable in size to the step pyramid of Djoser in Saqqara, but it was built not of stone, but of earth. The burials in the White Monument were carefully arranged according to ritual customs, along with military equipment, sometimes next to projectiles and animal hides. This fact indicates that the community tried to honor their warriors by creating a memorial in their honor. Clay seals. During excavations at the Toli Sangi site in southern Iran, scientists discovered 12 tiny clay objects about 9,000 years old. Experts believe that these are a kind of seals for sealing woven baskets, probably made from reeds. Interestingly, a similar packaging tradition is still preserved in some parts of the region today. The site itself is located in a small mountain valley, which is convenient for early agriculture. Radiocarbon analyses of the remains of buildings and hearths showed that people lived here from 7,050 to 6,650 BC. Artifacts of various sizes, ranging from 12 to 24 millimeters in diameter, were found in the same trench as the charcoal samples dated to the early pre-pottery Neolithic period.
Кипрская терракотовая.
In November 1929, Father Prokopios from the village of Agia Irene near Morphu was working in a field when he accidentally came across a clay human figurine. Realizing the value of the find, he protected it from being looted and informed the scholars. Thus began the story of the Cypriot Terracotta Army, a unique open-air sanctuary where about 2,000 clay statues were arranged in a semicircle around the altar. According to the Swedish Archaeological expedition, among the statues there were warriors in armor, chariots, figures of bulls, and even bronze miniatures. Professor Theodoros Mavroyanets dates the main findings to between 650 and 625 BC, pointing to the details of the clothing and the political situation in the Mediterranean at that time. Of the 2,000 statues found, 1,500 are now kept in the Stockholm Museum of Mediterranean and Near Eastern Antiquities, and the rest are in the Cyprus Museum in Nicosia. Most residents of Cyprus consider the removal of the artifacts to be looting and demand that they be returned to their homeland. A fortress in the middle of the desert, the ruins of the ancient Berber Ksardra, lost in an ocean of sand dunes, are a remarkable architectural monument and a testament to the lives of people who mastered the desert lands. This Kisar, located in the oasis, was hidden under layers of sand for a long time, which allowed it to be well preserved to this day. Ksardra is a traditional fortified village typical of the North African region. It was built to protect the residents and their property from raids and the harsh conditions of the desert. The fortifications include massive walls and towers, which not only protected the inhabitants but also provided shelter from the scorching sun. The date of the Ksar's construction remains unknown, which adds to its mystery. Modern technologies like satellites and satellite imagery allow us to study the ruins and surroundings from above, giving a new perspective on Berber architectural heritage. 2,000-year-old fig. Irish archaeologists made an unexpected discovery when they found the charred remains of a 2,000-year-old fig at Drumnach Head, north of Dublin. This find became important evidence that the Roman Empire, previously considered Ireland to be unreachable, still had an influence on its culture. Drumnach Head was a key point of connection between Ireland and England, which was under Roman rule. Among the finds made by researchers from University College Dublin, the fig turned out to be the most surprising. The fruit seeds confirmed that it was brought to the island at a time when such exotic fruits were considered a rarity. Previously, figs had only been found in medieval layers in Ireland, but this specimen is the oldest known. In addition to figs, traces of emmer wheat were found, a grain widely used in Roman Britain, but rare in Ireland. These findings show that the Romans not only traded goods, but also brought their way of life. Archaeologist Christian Baker said that people in Ireland at that time enjoyed emmer wheat bread, olive oil, wine, and also used glass and ceramic dishes, brooches, and beads. Figs, first cultivated in eastern Turkey and northern India, made their way to the Mediterranean via ancient trade routes, where they became an important part of the Roman diet. Researchers believe that figs and emmer wheat could have been brought through Roman Chester, a major trading hub in Britain. A book with a surprise, a Bible with a secret compartment for a firearm, is a unique combination of religious text and weapons craftsmanship. This unusual artifact was made for the Venetian Doge Francesco Morosini in the 17th century. The secret mechanism allowed a miniature firearm to be hidden inside the book, and a silk bookmark served as the trigger. It's hard to say whether Morosini used this Bible for its intended purpose, but he was known for his sharp mind and caution, which may have contributed to his long life. The Doge lived to be 74 years old, which was quite a respectable age for that time. This Bible combined the engineering craftsmanship of the era and shows how powerful people of that time sought to combine means of self-defense with everyday objects. The Church of Emperor Otto the Great, the Church of St. Radegunda in Saxony-Anhalt, served as a palace for ruling priests. In the 10th century, the temple was demolished during the Reformation 500 years ago. During the excavations in the German state of Saxony-Anhalt, archaeologists discovered the foundation of the Church of St. Radegunda, which played an important role during the era of the first ruler of the Holy Roman Empire, Otto I, also known as Otto the Great. The structure was located in the area of present-day Helfta, which is part of the city of Eisleben. Project leader Felix Biermann described the building as a miniature cathedral standing on an elevation, more than 30 meters long and 20 meters wide. The foundation stone was laid before the year 968, as documents from that era attest. In the 10th century, this church also served as an imperial palace, one of the residences or royal palaces. It is documented that Emperor Otto I and his son, Emperor Otto II, stayed there. The cruciform basilica stood on the hill for about 500 years, and for the last 2 centuries, it served as a place of pilgrimage. The building was demolished during the Reformation. Unlike the nearby Cistercian monastery from the 13th century, a plowed field appeared in place of the church. Since then, the location of the majestic building remained unknown for centuries. It was only in 2009 that it was discovered in an unremarkable cornfield on the territory of today's Magdeburg Diocese, thanks to geophysical research. Archaeologists have already found many graves near the foundation of the church. Experts emphasize the very good preservation of the bones. Remains of the former church decorations have also been discovered, as well as a large fragment of a church bell. Among the finds is an enameled bronze crucifix made in the 13th century in the city of Limoges in the southwest of France. Coins, clothing clasps, traditional costumes, shards of clay pottery, and other items. Maya glyph slab. Archaeologists from the National Institute of Anthropology and History discovered a huge stone panel carved at the bottom of a sacred pool in Coba, on the Yucatan Peninsula in the Mexican state of Quintana Roo. Coba, an ancient Maya city, flourished from 500 to 900 AD and reached a population of about 50,000 people. Recent excavations have revealed a monumental panel with 123 Maya glyphs carved at the bottom of a sacred pool near the Nahochmal Pyramid, which is 42 meters tall. The glyphs form an L-shaped figure covering an area of more than 11 square meters. Epigraphic studies have revealed the name of a previously unknown ruler of Coba, Kavil Chakchin, who took the name of the lightning god Kavil. The glyphs also mention the founding of the city Kvitsnal in 569 AD and dynastic rulers such as Bolin, Tsakop, and Ahau. Archaeologists are now working on preserving the monument, which has been damaged by erosion, and are creating its 3D reconstruction for further research. Archaeologists have discovered a terrifying relic. Britain may have been on the outskirts of the ancient Roman Empire, but even there, executions were a horrific spectacle. Archaeologists even believe that lions were sometimes used to kill terrified prisoners, and now they have an artifact that serves as proof of this. During the excavations in 2016, at the site of a Roman house conducted by the University of Leicester, researchers discovered a carved bronze key handle depicting a man grappling with a fierce lion in front of 4 naked and terrified youths. According to a study published in the journal Britannia, the scene suggests a public execution. The find has been named the Friar's Causeway Key Handle after the place where it was discovered, and it highlights the brutal nature of Roman authority in this province. Under Roman law, criminals and prisoners of war could be thrown to wild beasts. Such scenes are well documented in the Colosseum in Rome, but this is the first evidence that the practice of using exotic animals to kill prisoners as a form of public entertainment spread as far as Britain. According to the London Times, Rome obtained lions from Mesopotamia and North Africa, transporting them to remote corners of the empire by riverboats and wagons. It was a little worse than being sentenced to the mines, and that's another way prisoners often met their end. Statue of mongoose from ancient Egypt. This artifact is not only charming, but also a find of mystical significance. In ancient Egyptian mythology, the mongoose was associated with divine forces of light and protection. In Heliopolis, the center of the sun, god Ra's cult, the mongoose symbolized the victory of light over darkness. According to myths, the god Ra, taking the form of a mongoose, fought Apophis, the serpent of chaos who threatened the solar bark. This bronze statue with a solar disk on its head symbolizes solar energy and immortality. Such artifacts were often placed in temples or used in rituals for protection against evil. Interestingly, some researchers suggest that the mongoose, with its ability to hunt snakes, also symbolized the skill to overcome difficulties and defeat enemies, both spiritual and physical. Many similar figurines have been found in tombs where they likely served as amulets to help the souls of the deceased overcome dangers in the afterlife. Mongooses, which became part of sacred Egyptian symbolism, remain a reminder of the deep connections between nature, religion, and spiritual philosophy in this ancient city. New petroglyphs in Colorado. Archaeologists from Poland have discovered ancient indigenous paintings and reliefs on the border of Colorado and Utah in the United States. This team, which has been working for more than 10 years, is studying the 3,000-year-old Pueblo culture. The research is being conducted at the Castle Rock Pueblo complex on the Mesa Verde Plateau. This place is popular among archaeologists and tourists because of the ancient settlements and rock art created by representatives of the Pueblo culture. The agricultural Pueblo communities developed one of the most advanced pre-Columbian cultures in North America, including the construction of multi-story stone houses and rock art. The team discovered previously unknown galleries and petroglyphs dating back to different historical periods. The oldest of them, depicting warriors and shamans, date back to the 3rd century AD. Most of the petroglyphs date back to the 12th and 13th centuries and include images of shamans, warriors, animals, and hunting scenes. In the 15th to 17th centuries, when the territory was inhabited by the Ute tribe, hunting scenes appeared on the panels. In later centuries, images of horses appeared, reflecting the Spanish conquest. Study of the ravine led to the discovery of unknown petroglyphs at an altitude of 800 meters above the cliff settlements, which were used for astronomical observations and calendar calculations in the 13th century. 3,600 years of silence. For thousands of years, the sand kept the secrets of ancient Thebes, today Luxor, until archaeologists once again looked beneath its centuries-old dust. In recent excavations near the mortuary temple of Queen Hatshepsut, scientists discovered a system of tombs up to 3,600 years old, and along with them, portals into the life and beliefs of the ancient Egyptians. The work has been carried out with the participation of the Zahi Hawass Foundation and the Supreme Council of Antiquities of Egypt since the fall of 2022. Among the finds are bronze coins with the profile of Alexander the Great, children's toys made of fired clay, various ornaments, winged scarabs, and even carved beads. Here, a part of the Hatshepsut temple was also discovered, rock-cut tombs from the Middle Kingdom, and remains of the Asasif necropolis from the Ptolemaic period. The burial shafts date back to the dynasty. In one of them, there was a wooden coffin with the remains of a child. All of this helps us to better understand how people lived, believed, and died. A special find is the tomb of Jehuti Mesa, a court official associated with Queen Tetisheri. The inscription indicates that the burial dates back to the 9th year of the reign of Ahmose I. The war boughs found here may suggest that the owner served as a soldier and fought during the expulsion of the Hyksos. In November of the same year, another tomb from the Middle Kingdom era was discovered nearby, containing 12 sealed burials. Archaeologists are sure that Luxor still holds many similar surprises. Every new artifact, whether it's beads or a battle bow, subtly lifts the veil on the culture and history of Pharaonic Egypt.
Необычный боевой молот.
The exotic battle hammer from Saxony is a unique example of Renaissance weapon craftsmanship. Its design is astonishing. The battle hammer combines 5 elements: a hammer, an axe, a spike, a beak, and a retractable point. The point is activated by turning the handle, which makes the design not only functional, but also quite sophisticated from an engineering standpoint. According to a surviving document, this weapon was acquired in July 1593 for the Saxon court. The price was 30 thalers, and the work was created by the renowned master Balthazar Hacker, whose creations were distinguished by exceptional complexity and aesthetics. It is possible that the hammer was intended for Christian II, who was only 10 years old at the time, or for the regent Friedrich Wilhelm I. The weapon has been preserved in excellent condition and is now on display at the Dresden Armory. The hammer is 79 centimeters long and weighs almost 2.5 kilograms. 2 ancient mummies with golden tongues. In Upper Egypt, archaeologists excavated 2 tombs with human remains. The tongues of the deceased were made of gold. The excavations were carried out by a Spanish archaeological mission from the University of Seville at the El Benaza Archaeological site. At the entrance to the first tomb, team members discovered 2 human bodies with golden tongues. Inside, there was a large limestone sarcophagus with a lid shaped like a female figure. Research showed that the tomb had been opened and looted in ancient times. The second tomb, located next to the first, is untouched and completely sealed. Inside were a limestone sarcophagus, canopic jars, 42 green faience ushabti figurines, amulets, and beads. Archaeologists believe that the monument may contain other finds and intend to continue their research. Excavations in El Benassa have been ongoing since 1992. Once, this city was the capital of the 19th nome of Upper Egypt. It is known for its collection of papyri with inscriptions in Greek. The oldest shopping list. When going to the store, many of us leave a shopping list on a piece of paper or in our smartphone's notepad. But it wasn't always like this. During excavations in southern Turkey, archaeologists discovered a unique clay tablet with Akkadian cuneiform, which turned out to be the oldest shopping list known to us. This document, created 3,500 years ago, gives us an idea of the daily life of people of that time. The tablet was discovered in the ruins of Alalak, which drew scholars' attention as early as the first half of the 20th century. But because of the war, the excavations were suspended and resumed only in the 2000s. Recently, after the 2023 earthquake during restoration work in Alalak, another clay tablet was discovered. It measures 4.2 by 3.5 centimeters and is 1.6 centimeter thick. Deciphering the inscription revealed that it is a shopping list including wooden tables, chairs, and stools. The document also mentions the names of buyers and sellers, making it an important source for understanding trade and everyday relationships in the 15th century BC. According to Turkish archaeologists, this is the oldest shopping list that has survived to this day, and it is of great value for studying the history of the ancient Middle East. 15 kilograms of ancient Roman coins. Archaeological excavations in Augsburg began 100 years ago. That was when the first significant discoveries were made. They discovered parts of horse harnesses, coins, arrowheads, as well as jewelry and ceramics, which was already considered a sensation at that time. Then the research stopped for a while, but recently the work was resumed. And now the chief archaeologist of Augsburg, Sebastian Gerkas, has reported that a treasure weighing more than 15 kilograms, consisting of thousands of silver coins, was discovered on an industrial wasteland. The coins date to the 1st and 2nd centuries AD and lay for centuries in the old Wurtok riverbed's gravel. Thanks to the work of archaeologists, it has become clear that Augsburg is the oldest Roman military base in Bavaria. In 15 BC, the Romans undertook probably the largest attempt to conquer the Alps and the surrounding regions. Previously, they had succeeded with varying degrees of success. It can be said that during that period, Roman military policy in Germany was about creating rear support systems for a full-scale offensive against the lands of the Transalpine peoples. Beyond the Alps lived the Illyrian, Celtic, Radian, and Vindelian tribes. Ancient labyrinth. Modern remote sensing methods are giving archaeology new tools to understand the past. One vivid example is the study of the surroundings of Rujum el-Hiri, an ancient complex of stone circles to the northeast of the Sea of Galilee. This mysterious monument clearly shows how satellite images allow us to look at the landscape from a completely different perspective. Scientists analyzed photos of the area within a 30-kilometer radius and discovered numerous megalithic structures, massive circles with thick walls and mysterious flower-shaped enclosures near rivers. According to one hypothesis, all of them could have been elements of irrigation, defense, or livestock enclosures. In addition, the photos show burial mounds of various shapes and sizes. They might be burial sites or signal mounds. The results of geological measurements are no less intriguing. It seems that the territory itself has shifted over the past millennium, which has cast doubt on the hypothesis about the astronomical purpose of Rujum el-Hiri. The satellite image reveals the multi-layered construction, an archaeological palimpsest, where later structures were built on top of earlier ones. Such studies open a door to the distant past. By comparing satellite data, excavation results, and geophysical analyses, scientists hope to reconstruct the life of the ancient inhabitants of the Levant and better understand why they built such monumental stone labyrinths and surrounded them with complex agricultural systems. A pottery shard with an ancient alphabet. The ancient biblical city of Tel Lachish is considered an archaeological site of global significance. International teams of archaeologists have been delighted for years by discoveries dating back to the Iron and Bronze Ages. This time, the Canaanite city, which even witnessed Nebuchadnezzar, has given scientists a new precious gift: pottery shards with inscriptions that use the first alphabet. It is believed that the alphabet, in the form we know it, was invented by miners working on the Sinai Peninsula about 3,800 years ago, and they based it on Egyptian hieroglyphs. The pottery shards with inscriptions date back to around 1450 BC, when some of the letters still resembled hieroglyphs: a round symbol in the shape of an eye without a pupil, a door, a horned snake, and a little house. In fact, the small shards measuring 40 by 35 millimeters, were discovered by a team of Austrian archaeologists back in 2018. Apparently, it was once a milk jug brought from Cyprus. Previously, it was believed that the alphabet spread throughout the Mediterranean in the 14th and 13th centuries BC, when the Egyptians began to dominate the region. Now, however, experts believe that the alphabet may have appeared there earlier, during the reign of the Hyksos dynasty, who conquered the territory of northern Egypt and ruled there from 1650 to 1550 BC. After this first alphabet appeared in the Levant, the Phoenicians adopted and adapted it, and then spread it throughout the Mediterranean, where it gave rise first to the Greek and then to the Latin alphabet. A gigantic hearse. Archaeologists have discovered a unique funeral carriage and a double burial near the city of Dunfang in northern China. The fragments of the hearse that were found, which is about 7 meters long and more than 2 meters wide, date back to the Liao dynasty era. Although part of the carriage was destroyed, many of the iron elements decorated with gold have been preserved in excellent condition. In the second tomb, archaeologists found more than 30 artifacts, including silver and copper ornaments, as well as gilded bells. These findings will help to study the unique burial rituals of the Khitan, the founders of the Liao state. Interestingly, some scholars believe that the Russian name for China comes from the Khitan people. Traces of beeswax in ancient African pots. Honey was the first sweetener used by mankind, and thanks to a new discovery, we now have evidence that ancient people in sub-Saharan Africa were eating it as far back as 3,500 years ago. Archaeologists from Goethe University in Frankfurt and chemists from the University of Bristol in England found traces of beeswax in pottery fragments from the Nok culture in central Nigeria, which are now the earliest direct evidence of honey collection on the continent. The Nok culture, known for its exquisite terracotta sculptures, existed from around 1,500 BC to the beginning of the Common Era. Pottery is one of the best ways to learn about the Nok people and their diet, since the soil in this region is so acidic that bones and other organic remains usually do not survive. This is a remarkable example of how biomolecular information extracted from prehistoric clay pottery, combined with ethnographic data, provided the first insight into ancient honey hunting in West Africa, 3,500 years ago. During the study, a molecular analysis of food residues on clay pots was carried out. This method involves grinding small pieces of pottery found at archaeological sites and chemically extracting lipids, fats, oils, and waxes from the natural world, which allows researchers to obtain a biomolecular fingerprint of what foods were cooked in the pots. Using gas chromatography, chemists were able to detect stable chemical compounds, such as fatty acids, which were released by food and animal products and preserved in the pores of the vessel walls for thousands of years. And although no one expected to find beeswax, it was present on 1/3 of the tested pottery. Previously, evidence of prehistoric honey use was limited to petroglyphs on several continents, including images of bees and beekeeping products dating from 8,000 to 40,000 years ago. Egyptian reliefs in particular suggest the practice of beekeeping as early as 2,600 BC. The Nok people could have used vessels to heat beeswax in order to separate it from honey. Alternatively, the pots may have served as beehives, a practice still common in Africa today. Or they could have been used to make honey-based drinks, such as beer or wine, or for preserving meat products. Crystal jar. The thin-walled jar for cosmetics or perfume is a magnificent example of the craftsmanship of ancient artisans. It was carved from a single piece of rock crystal, which in itself speaks to the mastery of the material and aesthetic sense of its creators. The jar, created in the 1st century, comes from the Eastern Mediterranean, a region known for its ancient traditions in glassmaking and crystal processing. Its exquisite design and refined shapes are complemented by gold elements, indicating that this item was intended for people of high social status, probably for storing expensive oils or perfumes. Despite its modest size, only 8.4 centimeters in height, the jar embodies the wealth and sophistication of that era. The melted steps of the staircase in the Hathor Temple at Dendera raise many questions among archaeologists and researchers. These steps are located in one of the best preserved temples of ancient Egypt. They look as if they were exposed to incredibly high temperatures which could have caused their deformation and partial melting. Unusual bends and sunken areas can be seen on the surface of the steps, which are not typical of normal wear and tear in stone structures. There are various theories that try to explain this phenomenon. One hypothesis suggests that the steps might have been damaged as a result of some unknown thermal impact, such as ritual fires or processes related to ancient technologies. Another theory points to possible construction errors. If the stones for the steps were formed directly on site from a liquid solution, then interrupting the hardening process could have led to an incorrect shape and softness of the material. Scientists are still studying this phenomenon, adding yet another mystery to the rich legacy of ancient Egypt.
Сакральные древние артефакты майя.
Specialists from the National Institute of Anthropology and History studied the hard-to-reach Chemhuil Cave, located in the Mexican state of Quintana Roo, and discovered rare sacred artifacts of the vanished Maya civilization inside. Scientists believed that the Chemhuil Cave was a sacred place for the Maya. Like other caves, this natural formation was seen by the ancient civilization as a gateway to the underworld, where the indigenous people believed deities lived. Traces of Maya ritual activity were discovered in the cave during the rescue operations. Then Mexican archaeologists visited the site and found several Maya artifacts here. Dating showed that the items were made between 1200 and 1550 AD. Archaeologists found fragments of ritual vessels that were placed in natural underground niches. It is believed that the Maya collected cave water using such vessels, which was then used during sacred ceremonies. This water is considered especially pure, even sacred. In addition, they discovered a bowl that was used for sacrificial offerings to the deities. A tsunami destroyed ancient settlement. Archaeologists discovered that before 1612 BCE, a series of tsunamis, likely caused by the Minoan eruption, destroyed the settlement of Chesme Baglararisi in western Anatolia. Scientists found layers with destroyed and scattered stone structures, tephra, fragments of Minoan pottery, as well as the skeletons of a dog and an adult man, which were buried under debris. According to the authors of the study, because of this natural disaster, the settlement remained abandoned for about a century. At the end of the 17th or 16th century BC on the island of Thera, located in the Aegean Sea about 110 kilometers north of Crete, there was a catastrophic eruption of the Santorini volcano. For a long time, it was believed that this event happened around 1500 BC. However, studies of ice cores from Greenland dendrochronological and radiocarbon analyses point to the end of the 17th century BC. Scientists believe that this eruption was accompanied by a series of devastating earthquakes that affected many cities in the region. In 2001, in the resort town of Chesme, located on the Aegean coast of Turkey, 80 kilometers from Izmir, archaeologists discovered the remains of an ancient settlement, which was named Chesme Baglararisi. Apparently, it originated in the early Bronze Age, that is, in the 3rd millennium BC, and was an important port of its time. Scientists discovered numerous remains of residential buildings here, which were built from adobe bricks on a stone foundation, and the settlement itself was surrounded by a fortress wall. Archaeologists also found numerous artifacts and pottery, including imported ones. Scientists believe that the eruption of the Santorini volcano caused a series of tsunamis that struck the Anatolian coast. In their opinion, at least 4 tsunamis occurred. Apparently, the natural disaster caused the settlement of Chesme Baglararisi to cease to exist for about a century. Human blood on an ancient mask. The golden mask of the Sican sculpture, found on the northern coast of Peru, contains traces of human blood. The Sican culture, which existed from 750 to 1375 AD, is known for its luxurious gold artifacts, including funerary masks that were created during the Middle Sican period and often accompanied the elite in their tombs. In the 1990s, archaeologists excavated the tomb of one such member of the elite. Inside, they discovered a skeleton sitting upside down, painted bright red with cinnabar, with a gold mask covering the separated skull. Around the skeleton were the remains of 2 young women positioned as if giving birth and assisting a woman in labor, as well as 2 children. In a recent study, scientists analyzed the paint on the mask and identified 6 proteins from human blood, including serum albumin and immunoglobulin G. They also found proteins from egg white, presumably from a Muscovite duck. Researchers believe that the presence of blood symbolized vitality and may have been connected to the idea of the deceased's rebirth. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, everyone.